Imagine waking up one morning in 2026, grabbing your phone like you always do, and then freezing when you see the notification. A new Social Security update urgent highlighted and labeled with one word nobody wants to read. Change. Not an alert about a missing payment or a delay this time, but something different, something bigger. For the first time in years, a quiet message begins spreading across the country. A proposal that could shift the entire Social Security landscape in a way millions didn't expect. Some say it's long overdue. Others call it a political trick, and a small group hopes it may finally bring real relief. But for the millions who rely on these payments, one question is spreading faster than any rumor. Is the government really considering a permanent $200 monthly boost? Or is this another promise that fades before it becomes reality? Welcome back to USA Benefits Update, the channel that keeps you ahead of the news that affects your everyday life. And today's story might be one of the most important ones yet. Because what's happening behind the scenes right now could decide how seniors, disabled Americans, survivors, and fixed-income families survive the rising costs of living. In 2026 and beyond, the payment schedule isn't the only thing under review. There's a new proposal on the table that could change how benefit checks are calculated, delivered, and increased. But before we get into the updated schedule or the possible $200 boost, let's step back for a moment. Think about the reality millions of Americans live with every day. People who spent decades working. People who built this country. People now budgeting down to the very last dollar, wondering how they'll make it through the month. Rent is climbing. Groceries are climbing. Medication costs have reached levels nobody expected 20 or 30 years ago. The problem isn't just inflation. It's that Social Security hasn't kept up with real life in a very long time. And this gap is becoming impossible to ignore. So why does this matter so much right now? Because 2026 isn't shaping up to be a normal year. Economists warn that the cost of living will continue rising. Discussions about the trust fund are getting louder. Congress is under increasing pressure from advocacy groups, saying seniors are being pushed into poverty. And at the same time, more Americans than ever rely on these checks as their main source of income. Social Security was never supposed to be the only source of support in retirement. But for nearly half of beneficiaries today, it is. The stakes have never been higher. Here's where the story takes a twist. For months, policymakers dismissed the idea of a major increase. They called it unrealistic or too expensive. But something changed. New legislative drafts are quietly circulating. A proposal is being discussed, not officially released yet, but circulating among lawmakers that includes a possible $200 monthly increase for all Social Security beneficiaries, along with an updated payment schedule meant to make payments more predictable and more aligned with real-life economic pressure points. Nobody expected this shift. Not with the current political climate, not with the budget concerns. And yet, it's happening. Before we talk about the potential $200 increase, let's discuss the payment schedule, because that's what people feel first. Many think the schedule stays the same forever. But adjustments can happen behind the scenes, especially when new proposals come into play. For 2026, the schedule is still expected to follow the usual birth date-based groups: second week, third week, and fourth week. But there's serious talk about an additional timing protection system, something that would help prevent delays caused by federal review cycles, holidays, or processing backups. This part isn't confirmed, but is gaining attention. Let me give you an example. Picture a senior named Linda. She receives her deposit in the third week of every month. That check is how she pays rent, buys groceries, and gets her medication. But if a holiday or weekend slows things down, her payment might arrive a day or two late. On paper, that might not sound like a big deal, but in real life, it means missing a rent deadline, getting a late fee, or being forced to skip something essential. That's why this schedule discussion matters so much. It's not just timing, it's stability and dignity. Now, let's look at the possible $200 boost. On the surface, $200 might not sound life-changing, but for someone living on $1,400 a month, it absolutely is. That's food for an entire month. That's medication they couldn't afford before. That's being able to keep the heat on in winter. That's transportation to the doctor. That's breathing room, something millions haven't felt in years. Lawmakers are finally acknowledging that impact. But here's an important warning. This boost is still a proposal. It's not guaranteed. Some lawmakers support it strongly. Others say the cost is too high. And then there are those who stay silent, waiting to see how public reaction unfolds. That silence makes everything even more uncertain for the people who need clarity the most. So what's the path forward? Awareness, pressure, and understanding what's actually in the proposal. It doesn't just include the $200 increase. It also suggests replacing the current inflation formula with one that reflects the real expenses. seniors face, plus offering stronger protections for lower-income beneficiaries. If all three changes pass together, it could become one of the most meaningful Social Security improvements in decades. This is where the do's and don'ts come in. Do stay informed. Misinformation spreads fast during moments like this. Do check your MassSA account for official updates. Do follow trusted sources like USA Benefits Update so you're getting real information instead of rumors. Don't fall for viral posts that exaggerate or twist the facts. Don't assume every proposal becomes law. And don't ignore letters from the Social Security Administration I notice could contain details about new payment dates or benefit calculations. Experts across the country are weighing in. Some economists say the proposal is possible, but financially tough. Policy specialists warn that long-term solvency will need bigger structural changes. But advocates argue that Social Security was created to support Americans, not operate like a business. They say the government has the tools to fund it if the political will is there. And recently, several retired lawmakers have spoken up, saying the proposed increase isn't just reasonably, it's a moral responsibility. So what about the future? It remains uncertain. If this proposal passes, 2026 could become a turning point, a moment when Social Security finally adjusts to modern economic realities. If it doesn't pass, pressure will continue building, and the system may face even more strain as costs rise. The long-term impact depends entirely on decisions being made over the next several months, and those decisions could shape retirement security for the next decade. There are also a lot of myths floating around. One of the biggest is the idea that the government can run out of money and instantly stop paying Social Security. That's not how the system works. The program has dedicated revenue sources. Even in a worst-case scenario, payments wouldn't disappear. Another common myth is that lawmakers don't care about seniors or disabled Americans. That's not true either. Many do care, but political priorities and budget conflicts make progress slower than people want. This new proposal proves there is still interest in helping those who depend on Social Security. As we wrap up, here's a quick recap. The 2026 Social Security payment schedule is expected to remain mostly the same, but additional protections to avoid delays are being discussed. A $200 monthly boost is part of an active proposal currently circulating among lawmakers. Nothing is final yet, but the possibility is more real now than it has been in years. The impact would be massive, the debate will be intense, and the outcome is still uncertain. Before you go, here's something important. Stay informed, stay ready, and stay connected. The only way to protect yourself during uncertain times is to understand what's happening while it's happening. If you rely on Social Security or know someone who does, share this information. It might help someone avoid confusion, avoid panic, and stay financially stable as 2026 approaches. Thank you for watching USA Benefits Update. Your time, your trust, and your support mean everything. We'll continue breaking down the news that truly matters clearly, calmly, and honestly. Make sure you subscribe, stay alert, and join us again as we uncover the updates shaping your life. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay strong.